And when he proposed it, they said, yep, sounds great. And what year was that? Does anybody remember what year that was?
2010.
2010.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
February.
It was a
But I think in
contest.
January, it was actually, in 2010, it was actually
I
done.
don't know.
And Dick Huff was the one who named it
Oh, was
Breck
Dick?
Deck.
Uh-huh.
I came in second, I was the East Ridge. Breckenridge.
It's cute.
Breck Deck is great. That's the
Mom
best.
had a name too.
So who would like to come up here and tell a story? Oh, Joe, please.
There's a couple of those.
I'll get it out of the way so I can enjoy everybody else's story. I'm nervous about telling mine. Now, you know there are novels and there are short stories, and this is a short story. I got to Breckenridge and I wanted to play tennis, and John Finnegan was very bent on getting me onto the court. He'd see me and he said, Joe, are you getting any tennis in? Are you getting any tennis in? One day I walked by a court and John was playing, and he ran out, he saw me walking by, and he ran out, and he grabbed me and said, come on in, play with these guys. I didn't know any of them. I can remember back that one of them was Richard. I don't know the other one. One must have been John, and the other was Danny. And so Richard serves up a serve, and Danny hits. I'm at the net. Danny hits it right at my belly button, and I blocked it. I said, oh, geez. And another one came right back at me. I blocked it. Oh, God, this guy's nuts. And I also thought, this guy just said, welcome to Breckenridge Tennis.
So now you know how you got so good. They used you as a backstop, didn't they?
Where's that big wall?
Yes, and then he tested.
Yeah. Hi, folks. My name's Ed Bonds. I live in the Wellingtons, and I don't want to offend you, but I'm not a tennis player.
That's okay.
Sorry. Just a little history. I'm a bit of a history buff, and I've been looking into the Breckenridge because I haven't been here since its inception, but I do remember 2013. That was when the board proposed an assessment to redo the courts. And if you recall, you couldn't get a seat from here out to the pond. The place was just packed. And I have to say, Danny Girard, he had to be wearing a flak jacket. Because it was Danny's proposal that was on the table, and he was getting it from everywhere. Not just from the residents, but from the board, everywhere. And he was basically there, and I was new. I had just moved in and was on the Wellington board, but I wasn't on the master board. And I saw Danny, and he was just unwavering. When he wanted to do something, you really knew he wanted to do it. And that on a number of fronts. It wasn't always about tennis. It was about the best thing that you could do for the Breckenridge. And that's how I got, the following year I got on the board, and we got to talking, and he had a proposal, and then what do you think, and so on. Can I slide it in? Can I get it? It's some typical board politics, which most of you probably aren't aware of. There's a lot of that going on before you see the meeting. So anyways, it was me, him, over the last, past few years, me, him, and Dave Matson. We were always at one end of the table, and we'd be chatting ahead of time about, well, what do you think? Which way should we go? And then Danny'd have something, whatever it had to be done. He says, well, I think we should get, yeah. So it became known, and I think the presidents of the association of the master board started to realize that. So one time we came back, and I'm at one end of the table, Dave Matson's over at the other end of the table, and Dan's on the other end of the table. We're completely separated so that we could get together and maybe negotiate how this vote was going to go or anything like that. But I always remember Dan being like, when it didn't matter what the topic was and what he was pushing, he was relentless. And I took shots at him too, believe me. There was some times I didn't like what he had to say, but you know, at the end of the day, we were gentlemen and we agreed to part that way. What I want to leave you folks, most of you are tennis people, the job's on you guys, okay? You have to continue on with that form of a legacy. Gary DeWitt can't do it on his own. You need to support him. We have an aging community and it's going to need work constantly. So you can't let it slide, because Dan would never allow that to happen. And there's works on the table with his names attached to it right now that we need to get through. I'm sorry to be a little political, but that's the only way I knew Dan. He would be doing the same thing if he had the opportunity. So, to Dan. Cheers.
Danny was, you never knew me to keep my mouth shut. Danny was not only a visionary, anybody that knew him well knew that Danny was a hands-on guy. He would rather do things himself than find someone else to do it. Sometimes, in my opinion, and I raised hell with him about this a few times, to our detriment, because too much up here in his head. But Danny was just, if something needed to be done, Danny would just do it. And too often I can remember Jim McCormick at board meetings saying, less than a year ago, that Danny got himself in trouble, and he would get Jim in trouble because he just plowed ahead like he was on a snowplow, and there was work to be done, and he didn't ask a hell of a lot of questions.
Yeah.
When back to the tennis courts, when we needed to add foot washers, we used to just have little puddle trays that like little kids would like to splash into when we came off the tennis court to clean our shoes. And when all the foot washers were put in, Danny came up with the idea of the French drain and so on and so forth, and he just did it all himself. The design, the work, did it himself. And that was Danny. He did a lot himself. Yes, he was a visionary, but boy, was he a hands-on guy. And I worked side by side with him a lot.
You always lead ahead of me, Mike. Okay, the biggest thing that I remember about Danny is I'm wearing long pants because I got some owies. I got a few scrapes from hitting my racket on my shin, you know, all those little things. And we were playing a match. It was, I don't know, late September, June, I don't know, it was late. Anyways, he was in the next court over. We're playing, and all of a sudden we hear, "Oh my God!" And we look over, Danny is rolled over on the other side of the court, and he gets up, and he is a bloody mess. He has ripped up his arm, he's ripped up his leg, he's ripped up everything, he's shaking. "Get over here, Danny, sit down, sit down. We'll get you some help, What's going on? Are you okay?" "Yeah." Did I get the point? And that was Danny. It's minor. This is minor. We're looking at the big picture here, and that was Danny. He always wanted to make the big picture work, and he had big picture goals, and he achieved a lot of them. So, here's to Danny.
Didn't John Finnegan do that too?
He was always bleeding, I don't know.
I think so. Who's next? Okay, Gary.
I've got to piggyback on the story that Doug just told. So I was playing with Danny that day, and Elaine, I'm sorry, but I hit the drop shot that he was going for.
Oh.
And his skin was so thin, like many of us, and it looked like you took on his forearm and cut a swatch of skin probably 6 inches long and 3 inches wide and just folded it back, just meat. And the same thing on his leg. And so we got him set down on the bench for a while, you know, and I carried hydrogen peroxide in a spray bottle. I said, Danny, you really need to spray that, you know, you get all that Hartru in there and everything. And I said, but it's gonna hurt like hell. He looked at me, gritted his teeth, like a tough son of a gun he was, and said,